My special guest co-host tonight is excited. I know he's also excited to do this podcast. Chris Persianen, how you doing?
I'm good, man. The Knicks consolidated. They did it without quickly leaving the building, despite what many people said would have to happen if we wanted to be, whatever. And they got a player who is not my cup of tea in regards to he's not a name I would have been like, oh, we got to go out and get this guy. But it's always fun every time your favorite team makes a new a move for a new player under a new front office, because you get one more little sample size or one more little sample for your sample size as to what kind of players they like.
I think Cam falls somewhat in line with the someone who's Scott Perry has looked, the type of player Scott Perry has looked at in the past. High pedigree, high, obviously he's athletic and all that, highly touted. He was, number 3 recruit in the country across the board, all that stuff. And then it hasn't really worked out so far. But I think unlike a lot of young players who don't work out in certain situations, I think it's more complicated. Maybe the reasons he hasn't worked out in Atlanta. So I'm like you. He's not necessarily my cup of tea, but I'm interested. I'm curious.
Yeah.
And for the price, you can't beat the price. But we're not going to talk about Cam Reddish on this podcast. We are going to talk about All-Star and awards. It is that time of year because the NBA has pretty much reached the halfway point of its season. Actually, the second All-Star voting totals were released earlier today. I'm going to pull those up in a few minutes because I don't think there's any seismic changes from the first go round, but I'm always curious to see where people are. And we're going to pick our All-Star teams. I have mine picked out. Chris, I don't know if you want to pick your own All-Stars or you just want to comment on my.
No, I was going to be the you know how LeBron and Giannis or whoever's drafting will have Ernie on the side,
that's fine.
Kind of announcing their picks.
I like it. You could be the guy on the side. I'll say this. So I did this exercise with Andrew. Full disclosure, I did this episode with Andrew last night, and something happened to the recording, which is why we are re-recording it now. But I feel confident about my All-Star picks. I don't feel like they're rock solid. Especially the couple at the end of each conference. But that's how it always is, because you know what? You only get 12 spots and there's always more guys deserving than there are spots. So that's what happens. Before we get to the All-Star, I do want to run through very quickly, because this is usually the episode where we go through awards. And I'm curious to get your insight on a couple of these, because I think the awards races have kind of solidified a little bit throughout the league, with maybe one or two exceptions. And I'm curious if
They're getting there.
What?
They're getting there. The season is happening. It's interesting.
We noticed they were getting kind of solidified, because I think for the first time since we've been doing this activity, there wasn't a ton of change from the last time we did it to this time. So we start, as we always do, with MVP. And I think it's an interesting MVP race. I'll say that. And I think there are definitely 3 people who could win it. And I want to say that there are 4 people who could win it. And then on top of that, I think there are at least 2 people who could find themselves in the top 2 to 3 on the ballot before the end of the year. So I'll ask you first, who do you think I have as my number 1?
DeMar DeRozan.
Very funny. Who do you really think I have as my number 1?
I gotta go Jokic.
Really? Okay.
I would think that that's the kind of argument that you would, in your mental corkboard with strings, that's the one that you'd be like, no, you know what? I fucking love this guy's case to be MVP.
Well, I will say this: if you're an advanced stats guy, then it is very easy to craft an argument for Nikola Jokic. I think I went through the advanced stats a lot on the last pod. It's not my pick. I actually have Jokic 4th, which I feel like is borderline disrespectful. But as much as I am an advanced stats, a fan of advanced stats, I am also a traditionalist in certain senses.
I find myself siding more with that side than the advanced stat side. Like
the traditionalist side?
Yeah, like when I talk to people about basketball, I find that my takes end up being more eye testy and traditionally. I just think that's interesting because people like, if I have a take about something that is more analytic, someone's like, oh, you 19-year-olds and your stats, like you don't even watch the game anymore. And I'm like, I'm the one telling 40-year-old people on Twitter to stop being nerds with their stats.
No, I mean, like, I'll say this. I think if you watch Nikola Jokic, it feels like you could be watching the MVP. I think my issue is there is a part of me that cannot, at least at present time, designate the MVP of the league as someone who is on a 20-19 team. Is that fair? Probably not. Denver's had their issues. No, my MVP right now is Kevin Durant. I think I feel better about it right now than I did 24 hours ago, which is to say, I do think it was notable that they went into Chicago and they kicked the shit out of the Bulls, or at least it wasn't not notable. So I got Durant as my number one. I got Curry as my number two. You could kind of flip a coin still between those three. And then my number three is Giannis, who is having himself quite the campaign. And I'm not sure there's a good reason not to have Giannis at number one or number two. I don't know. I'm not there yet. I don't have a great reason other than that. I think his supporting cast has been a little bit more helpful than Kevin Durant's supporting cast. And Steph has kind of done a lot of heavy lifting, but Steph's numbers have also tailed off. I don't know. There's part of me that actually wants to put Giannis at two and Curry at three, but I'll leave it this way for now. And my number five is the aforementioned DeMar DeRozan with Ja Morant knocking on the door, of course. Yeah, you know what? When your
team goes 11-2 without you and is built of guys who are just like perfectly built as players to withstand something like a primary dipping out, for whatever reason for a couple weeks. Surely that guy is the most valuable player in the entire league.
He's my number six. I do think there's a chance that he rises even higher. I did certainly pay a lot of attention to the fact that Memphis did very well when he was on the sideline. However, I think both things could be true. I think Memphis could be a really well-built team and a great organization. And Ja Morant is really freaking good.